"You're reading the newspaper again?" I asked, as I entered the kitchen and rubbed my eye with my fingers. Harris had used his key to get into my apartment again. Not that I minded. I liked having him here. He was sitting in the sun on my balcony, dressed casually in a white t-shirt and a pair of blue shorts, with a newspaper unfolded in front of him. On the table stood 2 cups of tea, and he had brought freshly baked buns for breakfast. "Hi, Lydia," he said, and threw me a glance over his shoulder. He was wearing the sunglasses with white rims that I had picked out for him. I loved the contrast they made to his black hair. "I like your PJs." Suddenly self-conscious, I looked down at myself. I was wearing the one he had given me for Christmas. Blue shorts and a matching t-shirt. The important thing was the print on the t-shirt. Harris had drawn it himself. It was a monster. A creature with 3 spidery-looking legs, a roundish body, a thin neck with an eye as big as a head on the other side. He found the inspiration from the night that superhero had saved him. "Could you bring the butter and cheese?" he asked as he turned back to the newspaper. I rolled my eyes at him and went to the fridge. "She in there again?" I asked as I looked through the cold space. "Yes, and they've captured her ass perfectly," he said happily. I felt a sting in my chest, at the joy in his voice and the mention of her butt. Ignored it. Harris was my best friend, had been since I could remember. I wanted him to be happy, and if a superhero in spandex that made her butt look amazing was the one to do it, then I would support him. "What has she done this time?" I asked, and put the butter and cheese on a small tray. Found some apple juice too and put it next to them. "Wonder Arrow saves the city from the Midnight Menace again," Harris read from the newspaper. Apparently witnesses saw Wonder Arrow get in a great hit on Midnight Menace, and they are looking for injured people at the hospital. Too bad she didn't wait until Midnight Menace was done flooding the toilets. It was the insurance company that cheated Dad out of the money from the accident. Could have been 2 birds, 1 stone. "I hope they get her. Would be nice with some peace and quiet." "Take this," I said. Quickly, he put the newspaper away and took the tray I was holding out to him. As he put it on the table, I found my slippers and then joined him in the sunlight. "How was the party yesterday?" he asked curiously, as he prepared his buns for eating. "I am so sore," I said and sipped my tea. "I don't get how you guys go crazy when I can't come, and when I'm there you just behave like normal people," he said, shaking his head. I smiled and shrugged. It hurt to do that. "How was your evening? Anything interesting?" Harris lit up again. "Yes, apparently the superhero fight took place 2 streets away from me when I went for my coffee. You know how I normally take Main Street? That's where it happened. It's so annoying that yesterday I took Wallingford instead. Matt said there was this graffiti I had to see." I forced myself not to roll my eyes again. Of course he had taken a different route yesterday. "I meant work. But sure, tell me more about how you almost saw Wonder's ass," I said, and he looked surprised at that. "Oh, right," he said, and began telling me about the designs he was working on for the video game. I was in over my head. The mirror wasn't as good at keeping secrets as I was. I studied the bruises covering my body. A huge one in my stomach. It was a good thing I had been wearing my vest because that bullet would have killed me. Another bruise was covering my left hip and butt from when I landed. A big one on my knee, which Harris had assumed was from my imaginary party. My shoulder looked like the sky when the sun was setting and there was about to be a storm. The colors were astonishing. I looked at the suit on my bed. What on earth had made me believe that I could be a supervillain? Taking on a superhero? Madness! I had looked into Harris's eyes, seeing the desperation of meeting Wonder Arrow again. So now I tried to make that happen. The problem was that he was never where he was supposed to be. So all my fights had been in vain. At least I could skip the gym the days I had been fighting because that was hard work. I needed a new approach. Wonder Arrow was getting tired of me. Didn't really see me as a threat. I didn't hurt people, and that was because I didn't want to. All I wanted was to give Harris an opportunity to introduce himself. So far, I had been targeting big companies that polluted the waters or didn't pay their workers. I threw gas bombs in their offices. Even if I did it in the middle of the night when it was empty, it had an effect when the CEO opened the door. Or I pulled all the papers from the drawers and threw them around so it was a mess and a pain to organize. One time I had been in the middle of taking all the printers to the roof when she had found me. Everywhere I left a note saying, "You are a menace," and some reporter had named me the Midnight Menace. The companies hated me, feared me. They wanted me gone, scared of the information I found in them. Wonder Arrow was not that pressed to get rid of me. I didn't hurt people directly. Some people had lost their jobs and that was my fault, but no more than that. Meanwhile, people were getting murdered in alleys and she would rather go deal with them. Monsters came roaming around and she was only human, couldn't go on forever. She had to prioritize. I pulled on the suit. Tonight was the night. I would make it happen. The sun was setting and it was time for me to get going. I had some preparations to do. Midnight had come faster than I was prepared for. It felt like I barely had time to breathe. Harris was going to some club to meet his friends. He was going to be here at any moment. Hopefully, so would Wonder Arrow. The alarm set off blaring at me. I had only set a tiny fire to start the sprinklers. The sprinklers would do the rest, shredding all the evidence the firm had gathered to get out of paying the fines due to not paying their employees. I danced around in the fake rain. They kept money here as well. I would steal it, pretend that was my goal. I put on the backpack with money. Later I would distribute it to people who needed it. Maybe I would also buy something nice for myself if I took a beating. I've deserved something nice for all that I went through. I looked out the window, saw people coming out of the subway station, looked for Harris, spotted him walking slowly. A few people were looking at the building, noticing the alarm. He was one of them. I opened the window and climbed out to the stairs on the outside of the building, looked around. Where was she? I began climbing down the stairs, did it slowly. Someone noticed me, pointed, called out. And then I heard a thud behind me. A smile spread across my face, like a moth to the flame. "What is wrong with you?" Wonder Arrow asked. "I always catch you and kick your ass. Why do you continue to do this?" "Because I always get away," I said. My voice sounded weird and strange because of the little device on my mask. No one would recognize it was mine. She sighed. "Why don't you just hand over the money? You won't get your ass kicked, and I can go handle the real dangers," she said, slightly bored. I looked down, 3 flights of stairs. My legs could handle that. "No, thank you, but thanks for the offer," I said, and leapt off the railing. I landed securely on the ground. She might be able to fly, but my body was stronger than hers. Now I just needed her and Harris to cross paths. That part I hadn't figured out yet. It was hard to plan exactly how these things would go. I looked up and met the eyes of the person standing 2 meters away from me. He was staring at me, met my eyes. "I know you," Harris said slowly. "You're the Midnight Menace." I breathed out, but he continued to look at me. It felt like a truck hit my side. I went flying, tumbling through the air, landed several meters away. "You should get to a safe distance. It's dangerous out here," said Wonder Arrow to Harris. The world felt wobbly and I lifted my head slowly. That actually hurt. "Wow, this is the best day of my life," said Harris. "And you look even cooler than in the pictures." "It is dangerous here. Take your teenage hormones somewhere else," she said and turned toward me. "I'm 25, but okay, I'll back off," Harris said and backed away. I picked up a rock. This chance was not coming again. I was not going to let it slip through Harry's fingers. My fingers tightened around the rock. I took aim and threw the rock right at Harry's with the force of a bullet. Prayed that she would be fast enough. Wonder Arrow took the bait, saw the danger, lifted off the ground before the rock had left my hand. Harris yelped when she swept him off his feet. The rock made a hole in the wall. "Oh, shit," Harris gasped. I got to my feet, hoped that Wonder wouldn't notice that the rock would have missed with a meter. She put him down on the roof, told him she would get him when it was safe. Harris would turn on the charm, and the rest would unfold as he pleased. I had done my part. I took off running, heard the whoosh above my head. She grabbed my shoulders, and my feet were no longer on the ground. I tried to twist out of her grip. She only held me with one hand. With the other one, she punched me in the face. Wonder Arrow wasn't as strong as me, but she was fast. I didn't manage to dodge, and her fist met my nose again. I lifted my lower body, wrapped my legs around her, squeezed until she groaned. "Let me go," I grumbled. "No, you're going to the police." I was not going to the police. I grabbed her hand and tried to twist her arm, tried to force her to let me go. Her other hand grabbed my hood and pulled my head back. "You are so annoying," she hissed. She changed angle and flew towards the ground, crashed me into the cobblestones that went flying around us. A scream slipped out of me, but I was not done. If she wanted to play dirty, I could do that too. I grabbed the zipper of her suit as we went up again, drew it all the way down to her groin. "I wonder how many people are filming us right now," I laughed at her. She got distracted. I punched her in the stomach. The air went out of her. I grabbed her arm and lifted my legs, wrapped them around her neck. "Night night," I said to her and squeezed. She would let go of me when she got too weak, and I would get away. Neither of us would be in prime condition afterwards, but neither of us would die either, and not go to prison. She banged on my legs, tried to get rid of me, but I was superior. Her hand relaxed, and I tore free, fell to the ground, landed hard. As soon as I let go of Wonder Arrow, she began recovering. After only a few seconds, she was back to her old self, but I was already on my feet. I was already running and blending in with the people milling down in the subway. She was looking, but I was already gone. I had never been in so much pain in my life. It had taken 2 hours to get back home. I was standing in the middle of my living room, the suit halfway off. My body was more blue and purple than human-colored. Every tiny movement was agonizing. So I was taking a break, just standing there. My phone had buzzed like crazy. I would handle it tomorrow. Say that I had fallen asleep or that my phone had died. I closed my eyes, wondered if I could sleep standing up because laying down was not going to be fun. At least it was over. I had completed my mission. Harris had finally gotten his chance with Wonder Arrow. There was no need to use Midnight Menace anymore. Someone knocked on my door. I didn't move. I was asleep. It was 3 in the morning. No one would fault me for not opening the door. "Lydia?" I opened my eyes. Oh, holy shit! I hadn't heard the click of the lock, hadn't heard him enter the room. Harris stared at me with horror in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" I asked, irritated. He was supposed to be celebrating his new connection with Wonder Arrow. "You have to go to the hospital," he said and took a step toward me. "I'll be fine. Why are you here? You're supposed to..." "Hang out with Wonder Arrow?" "Yeah, turns out she's a bitch." "But, wait, what?" "Yeah, I have a new favorite superhero, and I would prefer if she survived," he said. I stared at him dumbfounded. It was hard to form thoughts with the pain. "Did you think I wouldn't recognize the way you throw?" he asked and arched an eyebrow. Or the companies you've been targeting? I figured out a week ago Midnight Madness isn't a villain. He looked so proud. I wanted to punch him. Had I done all this so that he, after 5 minutes, could say she was a bitch? I just didn't figure out it was you until tonight. I nodded. Okay, but what happened with Wonder? I asked. Well, she wasn't very nice, and I wanted to make sure you were okay. I've been looking everywhere for you. I've been here 3 times already. I was scared you were dying in a ditch somewhere, he said. I groaned. Can I take you to the hospital now? I did all this, and you just throw it away. I looked down at myself, wondered how long it would take me to heal. You did it for me? He asked. I looked up at him. He was blushing, actually blushing. This is the weirdest night of my life, I said, and wanted to shake my head, but that would hurt, so I didn't. Same. It is not every day you figure out that you're in love with your best friend. Try being in love with your best friend for 10 years. The words just slipped out. It was my turn to blush. We looked at each other, tried to adjust to the new people we were, to the new feelings we had. Are you sure I can't drive you to the hospital? I nodded. I'll be fine in a few days. Can I do anything else? He asked, with worry all over his face. Can you help me to get this off? It hurts to move, I said. And so, I had finally told the boy I had been in love with for 10 years how I felt. But instead of the kisses and touches I had dreamed of getting, he was barely able to lay a finger on me without me wincing. Carefully he took off my clothes, but his stayed on. He found some painkillers and water and gave that to me. I made it to the bed, and just before I passed out, I heard his voice. I'll stay here, just to make sure you don't die before I get to take you out on a date.